This evening, the general election has begun, and tonight we start off by sitting down with the two candidates for Maricopa County Attorney. First up, Republican incumbent Rachel Mitchell, the current county attorney, who tells us why voters should re-elect her. Then, Democrat Tamika Wooten, who is running with the promise of restoring faith in the county's justice system. This is Before You Vote. Welcome, I'm Mike Broomhead. This election season, we'll take a look at the major races in Arizona, such as the U.S. Senate, Maricopa County races for sheriff, recorder, and county attorney. Plus, there are a number of interesting district races that we plan to share with you as well. Now, before we begin, let's jump right into some of the latest headlines, both locally and nationally. First of all, is the Republican Party in Arizona divided or united? Prominent Republicans like Julie Spilsbury, Pat Hickman, Mesa Mayor John Giles support Ruben Gallego and Vice President Harris. On the flip side, former Governor Ducey endorsed Lake and Trump. How will Republicans actually vote in November? So Ruben Gallego trying to capitalize on this, saying Republicans are divided, but Karen Taylor Robson, who was the opponent for governor in the primary against Kari Lake, immediately after her win endorsed her. Her opponent in the primary, Mark Lamb, immediately endorsed her. And there was a rift. There was a big rift between President Trump and Governor Ducey and Kari Lake and Governor Ducey. But he came out and said they are the best people qualified. So I would say this. They are going to vote. They're not lying about their vote. But getting unification in the Republican Party is going to be done if candidates like Kari Lake and candidates like President Trump unify the party with their words and with their actions. And Arizona is one that is ready to be unified. The Republican Party wants to. Now, there are new sanctions being recommended for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. They began with the Melendrez case in 2008 with racial profiling. The judge is not pleased with the progress of backlogs of complaints against deputies. So the MCSO budget is now forced to allocate more money to address this issue each year. Now, I would say to you, this is a warning sign for the city of Phoenix. Federal oversight doesn't fix the problem. It's been well over a decade in Maricopa County, and a consent decree that they're proposing in Phoenix would cost about $250 million. That's $250 million over the next 10 years, and they know these last at least a minimum of 10 years. I believe that Phoenix is a self-assessing, self-correcting agency and is able to do the right thing. Now, stay with us. We sit down with Republican incumbent in the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, Rachel Mitchell, and find out why she thinks Arizonans should re-elect her in November. Now, we'll be back here in exactly 60 seconds. Welcome back to Before You Vote. As we start talking with candidates, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, a very big office, and joining us now, Republican candidate and current County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We've been talking since you took this office, and you kind of came into a situation that was a little bit rough. Let's start there. How are things in the office now from your perspective, and are you satisfied with how far you've come?
Yeah, when I took over, we were 20% down in personnel. We have built those numbers up. We had a large backlog of unreviewed cases. We have cut that down. We had a large backlog of unreviewed officer-involved shootings. We've eliminated that. So, am I satisfied? I always like to, go even further than we have. But I mean, we have really brought the office back, and it's doing well, and it's doing what it should be doing.
There is a lot of question. I think the focus of the public a lot of times shifts. It was for a while they scrutinized law enforcement to a great degree, and now it seems like it's on the judiciary side of this, the sentencing and the trials. Are you satisfied with that, with the labor force you have and the number of trials and cases you're taking to trial? Is that in a good place?
It is in a good place. We still have a few positions that were given to us by the Board of Supervisors this year that we're going to fill, and but we have been able to keep the case loads manageable. so that people can get the attention that they need to the cases.
Interesting, because I have been talking on the air of how the Board of Supervisors has been saying we've cut government and keep spending down, and there is no debt in the county. But one of the areas that we're focused on is your office and county funding. Are you satisfied with the funding? Are they funding your office appropriately?
Yes, I mean, they when I started, they gave a pay for performance raise, but they also gave a market adjustment so that we could hold on to people. And they've given us additional positions. So the one area that they don't want to cut into is criminal justice, and that's not only the county attorney, but it's the sheriff as well.
So this obviously is a political season and a race. Talk to me about running for this office and why, state your case. Why are you the best person for the office?
You know, it's not an overstatement to say I love the office. I've been in the office 32 years, and most of it, as you know, I was a sex crimes prosecutor. And so I have walked alongside people in their darkest places, and, you know, I've given them a voice, I've given them an ear, and I've given them really a shoulder a lot of times. And that's what this office can do. It can restore people's faith in society. We can't 100% wipe out what happened to them, but we can let them know that society is not okay with what happened to them, and give them some vindication. And that's critical. And it's critical to keeping our society safe.
I think that more than anything, if you've ever been a victim of a crime, is when you go to the system, you call the police like you're supposed to, and then you feel like you're not getting justice. You're almost angry at the system. And I think that, especially when it comes to a crime as horrible as that, would be the worst case.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's an extra hurt beyond the crime itself when the system doesn't kick in and vindicate your, you know, what happened to you. So that's very important for us to do.
You know, it's odd because there are a couple of positions politically that I don't think are a partisan office, that you either can do the job or you can't do the job, but you have to run as a Republican. What is it about the office that isn't partisan? What is it that no matter who's in that office, they have to do what job?
You know, I agree with you. This in the sheriff's office should be the most nonpartisan. We're not there to vote. We don't cast votes. What we do is we protect society and make sure the community is safe. And that's regardless of whether the victim has an R or a D or an I or whatever letter after their name. Justice is blind, justice should be blind, and my office should be blind as well. And we do our best to make sure that we're nonpartisan.
I asked you before if you were satisfied, and you said you're never really satisfied. So if reelected to the office or if elected to carry on another term in this office, what would you want to do next? What do you think the office needs to do next?
I think we're already starting, but we're going to really be focusing on juvenile violent crimes. You know, we've seen obviously the Southeast Valley, but what we're seeing is a national trend and a statewide trend for juvenile violent crime to go up, even though violent crime is going down. And so we need to address that on a number of levels. We need to address it through how the courts respond to it, how we respond to it policy-wise, but we also need to look at some legislation, and we have included some of those things in our legislative agenda for 2025.
Is it punishment? Is it counseling? Is it a combination? Is it case-specific? What's the attack on that?
You know, the court system is geared for rehabilitation, hoping that they never get to adult court. And so what I want to say is, let's not just check a box and say we put them through some program. Let's look at a program and make sure it's research-based and it's effective, and hopefully they do not make it into the adult court system. But they need to know, and I think this is an important part of rehabilitation, the adult court system is ready to hold them accountable if they don't take advantage of it.
I appreciate the time as always. And I know with this short amount of time we can't explain everything, but I do appreciate the time and the look forward into the next term, and I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
All right, Rachel Mitchell, she is the county attorney running for the Maricopa County Attorney's office again. We'll be back. Now don't go anywhere, because coming up next, how does money in political advertising affect elections, and can you lie in a political TV ad? And later, Democratic candidate for Maricopa County Attorney Tamika Wooten to discuss her campaign plans for the general election. This is Before You Vote. Welcome back to Before You Vote. We're going to talk about strategy and about political ads, and the expert in the field, Gibson McKay from Sherpa Public Affairs. Gib, thanks for doing this, man. It's great to talk to you again.
Oh, it's good to see you again, Mike. Thank you.
Let's talk about political ads and what's legal and what isn't. Basically, it's legal to lie. How do you define what a lie is? Can you talk about, from a strategy point of view, where those limits are in your mind?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, as a candidate for office, you obviously don't want to get caught lying publicly or what have you. And you know, we in our conversation a little earlier, we were talking about, you know, the idea of one person's lie is another person's truth. Is Kamala Harris the border czar, or did Thomas Jefferson really mean it when he said that John Adams was going to take America to war with France? Those are things that are, you know, those are hard to define, whether it's an agency in the United States government or local government or something that needs to be defined in the courts. It's rarely a criminal action, although as you and I have discussed, there has been certain instances of that, but usually there's a civil defamation type thing that goes on. And I would say rarely are those successful. I mean, it is difficult to define what is a lie in politics, but I think getting down to the foundation of it is lying in political advertisements is perfectly legal versus commercial advertisements that are, you know, are held to a different standard.
When you look at what works, though, and we know that negative in a lot of cases works, but do some of those negative ads go too far? Is there a point where it goes too far and it begins to backfire?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you know, there's an old rule in politics that, you know, everyone says they hate negative advertising, except everybody that does it ends up, you know, usually winning.
Yeah.
Negative advertising works. You know, there's this, you know, I'm a weird, wonky guy. I studied this many years ago. The human brain remembers the negative 7 times more likely than the positive. That's an old rule in any advertising, whether you're a political advertiser or advertising Coca-Cola. You know, but I want to go back a little bit in the sense that there are agencies that control what commercial speech says. So, you know, there's the famous case with Kentucky Fried Chicken that said, you know, make us part of your plan, your diet plan. And the Federal Trade Commission said, you cannot say that. You know, that's, you know, that's a regulating entity. Who regulates a politician, really, other than the courts? And that's why they tend to fall into defamation. So.
Well, Gib, man, I appreciate the time and the expertise, because that line and where it is, we know it gets contentious, but I appreciate the insight, because I know you've been doing this for a long time, and it's great to talk to you again.
It makes for thick skin, my friend.
It does, it does. That's Gibson McKay, expert in the field. We'll be back. Coming up, I sit down with Democratic candidate for Maricopa County Attorney Tamika Wooten to discuss her campaign plans for the general election. This is Before You Vote. Welcome back to Before You Vote. Speaking with Maricopa County Attorney candidates, Democrat Tamika Wooten is here. It's nice to meet you.
It is nice to meet you as well, Mike. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's talk about qualifications. Start off with just a general question. What do you think qualifies you for this office?
I am uniquely qualified for this office because I've spent my entire 34-year career here in Arizona as an attorney. I've been a chief prosecutor, a defense attorney, and a judge. So I have that global perspective that no other county attorney candidates or county attorney period has had.
So when you look at the office as it exists, what are the changes that you believe need to happen, not just to the whole system, but specifically in that office?
As county attorney, I want to make sure that everyone receives justice. That is my priority. Being in the courtroom every day, being a defense attorney, I see things that are going on. Rachel Mitchell is making sweetheart deals to certain people, and while leaving another set of people to be unanswered for. So I want to make sure that justice is served for everyone. I want to make sure that our victims are respected and their wishes are made available or made heard, basically, because I know that she's routinely dismissed felony charges and just basically sent a letter to the victim saying, we've turned down this case. And these have been not only felony cases, but they've been murder and manslaughter type cases. So I want to make sure that we respect the victim's wishes and we have one-on-ones with them and focus on violent crimes.
So is that a staffing issue in your mind, or what would go into that decision in your mind? I'm not asking you to get into her mind, but why would someone decide to do that?
You know, I believe that she's doing things for political purposes. You know, the fact that she gave Charles Ryan that sweetheart deal when they had 2 police officers who were pleading with her to file more dangerous charges, and she gave him probation. You know, other people in the community would not get that type of plea. I know that there are several people who are serving prison right now for the exact same charges. And so, again, just making sure that we listen to all victims. I think she doesn't want to do the work. She wants to focus on giving certificates for retail theft diversion rather than, again, addressing serious charges. As county attorney, you need to make those hard choices. I've been a prosecutor. I've made those hard choices. I've been a judge. I've had to make those hard choices. And as county attorney, I'm prepared to make those hard choices without any political repercussions.
When looking at your platform, it said that you're looking at reducing prisons, attendance is a bad word for it, but incarceration rates. How do you do that and be tough on crime like you're saying you want to be? How does that work? You
know, one of the things that actually motivated me to run is, as a defense attorney, I would have clients who are mentally ill. Under mandatory sentencing laws, you know, the prosecutor or county attorneys know that if a person doesn't take that offer, then if they go to trial, they're going to get even more prison. So the county attorneys would routinely make ridiculous plea offers. I had a client who was mentally ill, had priors. He stole a beer from Circle K, and they gave him 10 years in prison. And he was like, Tamika, what did I do? He didn't even understand that. So again, if we treat mental illness and addiction as health issues rather than with handcuffs, and then we save prison, because there's definitely people who need to be separated from society, and even people with mental illness that need to be separated from society. But let's not spend our taxpayer dollars putting people in prison for shoplifting.
When you talk about restoring faith in the justice system, what does that look like? Is it everything you're describing, or is there more to it?
It's what I'm describing. Again, you know, we have several different victims who have been just routinely dismissed. We have the families in Goodyear with the families of the cyclists. You know, she just sent a letter declining prosecution and sending it down to misdemeanor court. Likewise, in Avondale, you know, there was a young man that was shot in the back. And again, she just sent a letter to the family saying, we're not going to prosecute. So again, we need to, even if there was justification to not prosecute a case, you need to sit down with those families and have those discussions with the family, as opposed to just sending a form letter saying, I'm not going to prosecute your case.
When it comes to staffing, we hear that there's been short staffing across the board. How do you fix a staffing issue and make sure you're fully functioning? If the budget's there, how do you hire the people?
You know, I think a lot of people have become unhappy with the county attorney's office. I've spoken to people who were former county attorneys, and they left and they said, you know what, Tamika, if you become county attorney, we're coming back. And these are seasoned attorneys. Again, let's not give sweetheart deals. The role of a county attorney is to do justice for everyone. And I believe that when I become county attorney, we will see people coming back to make sure that justice is served for everyone.
How important is a relationship with law enforcement in your office, and how do you make sure it stays strong?
You know, being a former prosecutor, I have police officers who are friends, so having relationships with police officers are key. And as county attorney, I have the unique position because I am a black woman, and I know that people, black and brown people in the community, often feel unsafe. I plan on bringing law enforcement and the black and brown and lower economic communities together to bridge that gap so that at the end of the day, everyone feels safe. Police officers need to feel safe and have confidence when they pull someone over, but yet people who are getting pulled over need to feel safe as well. So I am looking forward to that.
Ms. Wooten, I appreciate the time and to get to meet you and learn more about you. I wish you the best.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to coming back anytime.
Tamika Wooten, she is the Democratic candidate for Maricopa County Attorney. We'll be back. Thank you to Maricopa County Attorney candidates Tamika Wooten and Rachel Mitchell and political strategist Gibson McKay for joining us this week. Thank you for tuning in this week. We will see you next Sunday right here on Before You Vote.